Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Radio YesCymru, the podcast on your favourite podcast app and also on the YesCymru YouTube page. We're going to be discussing European matters tonight with my speakers, Geraint Thomas from YesCymru and Begotxu Olaizola from the Basque country. So, croeso Geraint, croeso Begotxu.
Yeah.
And we'll kick off, Geraint, with you quickly. The ICEC, which is the International Commission for European Citizens, which doesn't tell us much, but it's basically a movement of European nations in Western Europe wanting independence. There's a conference in Cardiff, weekend the 5th of July. This is the first time, I presume, in Wales.
Yes, it's first of all, it's ICEC is a representation of it's an organisation representing 7 nations at the moment. So we've got Wales and Scotland, we've got Catalonia, we've got Basque country, we have Flanders, we have Sud Tirol and Veneto. They are the member nations of ICEC. We'll come back a bit later on to partner nations as well, which are coming over. But yes, first time that Wales has been able to host the conference, and it's a real honour for us in Wales to be able to do it.
And it's been held at the Urdd Centre down in Cardiff, right next door to the Senedd building. Tickets are free, but you need to register to take part in the event. So, Begotxu, you've been a member of ICEC for a few years now, in the Basque country as well. Can you tell us briefly what ICEC aims to do? Because, getting independence for Wales is difficult. Getting independence for all these nations across Europe is even more difficult, I bet, or maybe not. So what's the point of ICEC?
Well, the first point is to raise awareness in the nations that are part of ICEC and broaden this. The first would be raise awareness of the members in ICEC and the knowledge of other nations, and then raise awareness of other citizens in these nations. And then, of course, we think that by collaborating and by strengthening our links, it might be easier to kind of work together towards a possibility of independence inside Europe.
That's it. So the dream, obviously, as the dream of people in YesCymru, is that there's an independent Wales, independent Basque country, Brittany, Catalonia, Scotland, and we're up against the big nation states is what we used to call them, though they're multi-nation states in essence. So, Begotxu, what kind of things do you think members have learned from each other over the past years? I mean, what have you as a Basque woman maybe learned from what's happening in Wales or Scotland or Catalonia or maybe Sud Tirol?
The first thing that we learn is that the situations are very different.
Yes.
From one place to the other, and the rhythms are different. The aims, the intermediate aims might be different, but we have the same goal. And then another thing that you learn is that certain things you can learn and try to implement in your own country. All the things are not exportable, and you are aware of these things. For example, with Decorrica and Rasariais, you can develop on that if you want. But I still think that there's a lot on seeing that others are in the same fight. I think that gives you a plus of motivation because I think we go into ups and down cycles in which, for example, Scotland or Catalonia were in the up, and then so I think being together can give us a wider perspective of the whole issue. Also to not repeat things, of don't fall in the same traps as other nations. Okay, so I think we can learn from the experience of others and offer other experiences. So that's the main thing.
Yes, I think ICEC is very good, and I think it's good that it's basically nations in Western Europe, because these are sub-state nations fighting within democratic situations, usually with their own kind of parliament, different powers, of course, and a sort of similar macro history. So the history of Wales is quite different, obviously, to Estonia, say, or Basque country is different to, let's say, Kosovo or something. So I think it's quite relevant then. It's kept to Western Europe, and I think that makes sense then. I think there's a danger sometimes with internationalism that we try to paints a too broad a brush, and then nothing actually makes a lot of sense. But I think your point about cooperating, learning from each other is an important one. So Geraint, YesCymru, I think, has been a member for a couple of years now, not very, fairly recent. I mean, how has YesCymru as a body sort of felt their association with ICEC? How's it been?
It's been an interesting journey for YesCymru. We've got two of us are new reps, so two reps from each country. So at the moment, it's myself and Phil Griffiths who represent YesCymru. And part of our learning process has been to organise this conference and building relationships as well. I mean, we invited Anna Arnaque from Catalonia over to speak in the Barry March, which was fantastic as a way to understand. A lot. She took part in panel discussions and then spoke from the stage as well. So it's an understanding, and the way the meetings are panned out. So we have board meetings every 3 months, and the first thing we do in every ICEC board meeting is to go around the table and have an update from each country as to where they're at, where the campaigns are at, and it's an interesting, as Begotxu was saying, exactly that. People are at different trajectories in their campaigns, if you like. And we've seen, Catalonia and Scotland being up there. There are other nation countries which are, at the very beginnings of their campaigns. And to see maybe that Wales is somewhere in the middle, that sometimes we think we look up to Scotland, we look up to Catalonia and everywhere else, and maybe having a little bit of an inferiority complex. But in fact, we're somewhere in the middle, and our campaign in Wales is on the up, and we can contribute as well. Yeah, so it's an interesting situation for Wales to be a part of ICEC. There's a strong feeling of camaraderie, something we've developed in past few months. If you were in the Barry March, you saw a video. There were 10 nations on that video of goodwill messages on the big screen from all the other companion nations and partner nations. That gives people a lot of fire in their belly to feel, actually, we're not alone here. It's not just Wales fighting our own battle here. There are people all over Europe fighting the same kind of battle and aiming for the same objectives as us. So it is very uplifting. And what we're trying to do in this conference now is trying to bring this together and to actually learn. We're going to concentrate a lot on sharing good practice, learning from each other, especially in the fields of mass campaigning, whether that be digital campaigning or traditional on the ground campaigning. So this is what we're going to be, the focus of the conference is going to be about learning from each other and how do we do this efficiently, because we can all learn from each other. Anna in Catalonia will say something completely different from my thinking of how to reach 4 million, 5 million people in Catalonia. So it's going to be really interesting to find this out.
Yeah, so Begotxu, I mean, Geraint and Phil are there representing YesCymru. You're from the Basque country. You're from a beautiful town called Geraint, which is to the west of Donostia, San Sebastian, a very Basque-speaking area as well. As people may know, there's the Basque country, 7 provinces, 3 in France, which treated them terrible because France essentially is a fascist state when it comes to the minoritized languages. And then in the Spanish state, you have Navarre, which is the biggest province in terms of size. And then 3 other provinces make up Euskadi, which is where Bilbao and San Sebastian, people may be familiar with football, and Vitoria-Gasteiz is. So, I mean, do you represent a movement there in the Basque country, Begotxu, and is it only you, or are there other movements as well?
Inside ICEC, I represent Naziogintza.
That's what, sorry?
Naziogintza, which means literally nation building.
Right.
Naziogintza. Ginza is like making a building in Basque. And I'm coming along with Josu Albero, another representative of Naziogintza. And he's been in ICEC for longer than me. Josu Albero is from the very beginning, I'll say, maybe a year later. I mean, ICEC started in 2011, and it was formed in the beginning by Scotland, Catalonia, and Flanders.
Right, okay.
And then it grew. I think the Basque country was incorporated the following year, and So yeah, well, Nacio Ginza is not a mass movement like YesCymru or the Catalan National Assembly. It's more a think tank. We like to steer the opinion and like to just go to politicians and point out things and just question things. There's a mass movement, Gure Escudago. You might be familiar with Gure Escudago. It was born after the Catalan Assembly, like in 2013, on that wave. And they have held mass demonstrations, like the last one was, I think it was in the middle of May. And we gather around 40,000, 50,000 people in Bilbao. Yeah, well, not for Catalans, but yeah, for Wales. It's all
It's impressive for Wales.
Yeah, it is impressive because the population of Wales is over 3 million people, and the population of the Basque country is the same, 3 million people. So yeah, having 40,000 people in the streets of Bilbao, according to the local police, and 50,000 according to the organizers, is a big thing. But still, they focus more in the right to decide, and we criticize that a bit because we think because in fact, in that protest, everybody that was there, we were chanting, we were shouting independencia, independencia, that I guess you understand, and even
yes. Well, I think the message from YesCymru is it's good to be honest with people and not try to be too clever. So I mean, we'll give the link
blame that to Gurescu. I rather like the YesCymru stand to say our ultimate goal is an independence. We know things. I mean, you need different faces, and but here things are done in a different way, and they talk about compromising and all this. So, but there are other the last movement that was mass movement for independence, Independencia's area, disappeared in a crisis after the Catalonia thing. Yeah.
Well, we'll give links to these movements with a YouTube channel, so you can click on and see a bit more about those. So I think, Geraint, this is the thing. I mean, and just to be provocative here, I mean, there are many differences, and I think the different nations have to follow their own path because they understand, the limitations of their own society, what people to take. I think the lesson from Wales is challenging people actually did work, but then I think we could only do that really as YesCymru after we won the 2011. This is my hunch, 2011 referendum where the Senate, the Assembly as it's called, had some real powers, and I think it made sense. We had to have an assembly which was a vehicle which unified the nation, which had some laws and passed some laws and done some things. And then I think it made sense for people maybe to start thinking about independence. Though, of course, the dream was there from my point of view back in the 1970s when I was a child. But I think this lesson, I presume, from ICEC is that you also have to respect the differences between the countries and the nations and how they go about it. Also, I mean, there's different strategies because I'd imagine South Tyrol, South Tyrol, want to join with North and East Tyrol, which are part of Austria, which is basically to rewrite the post-First World War treaty where Italy was given South Tyrol as some kind of compensation for joining the Allies. And then obviously Flanders is a quite different situation where Flanders is actually the biggest province in Belgium. And, you could almost make the argument that they already run Belgium. They would disagree with that and understand why. But these are very different situations to even a Basque country or Wales or Scotland and Catalonia. So, I mean, how does that work? I mean, how do you feel, within this wide variety of backgrounds, are you able, do you formulate policy or is it just sharing ideas and sharing experiences?
Yeah, it's a matter of, first of all, respecting each other's campaigns. Also, the focus of each nation's campaign is slightly different as well. You'd imagine that, in Wales, we have our language as many of the other nations, but we, in the YesCymru, have stayed away from campaigning on the grounds of identity and the language and our culture, where maybe in other partner nations they put more emphasis on using the language as a campaign tool. So respecting that's been a bit of a learning curve for us in Wales. but also, yeah, absolutely, we need to appreciate that you know, the differences are there, and all the nations have been through their to the process of identifying exactly what their campaigns are. You know, down to the use of wording and avoiding specific words. We often talk about the use of words like autonomy, independence, self-determination, even the words we don't want to use, such as we don't talk about federalization and this kind of thing. So it's very interesting. So we share this kind of thinking as well, and identifying the ways we think together. But it's mostly is about the conference, especially, is all about sharing campaign techniques and how do we reach out to people, and because there's so many good work that happens in other nations that we're not particularly aware of, and we can learn from bad practice as well, things that haven't worked out. You know, maybe campaigns have invested a lot of energy and maybe money into stuff that actually haven't worked. So we need to learn from each other. And it was really interesting. One of the partner nations that are coming over as guests of YesCymru to the conference are Brittany. So YesCymru are coming over, and we did meet up with representatives from YesCymru 2 weeks ago in Cardiff, and it was an eye opener for us in YesCymru, because we would exactly like Begotxu was saying. Now they're in totally in a different part of their trajectory to where we are, and it gave us in the YesCymru a lot of strength to think that actually we are maybe 2 or 3 steps up the ladder to a lot of these nations. You know, we have our own Senedd. We have devolution to a large extent. We have our own Senedd. We have, even down to our sport teams. We have a football team that did compete in the Euros and do compete in the World Cups. We have our language. There's lots of stuff going our way, and these partner nations need to get on that ladder and build up. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's very good to see the foundation I've seen on social media of YesBraze, which seems to me quite modelled on the YesCymru model. Begotxu, as we've got you on the line, and I know Welsh people are always quite interested in what's happening in the Basque country, and we'll try and keep this short. but what is the situation now? So just so Welsh people understand broadly, because it's a bit complicated. So we have 7 historic Basque provinces, 3 which are quite small. In the north of Basque is the Basque country, Paralde, which is basically in Spanish state, French state. So that's basically Biarritz, Bayonne. So if you're following rugby, you know about these places. And then in Spanish state, you have Navarre, which has historically been the independent Basque state. So it's a bit like
Kingdom of Navarre. Which
so they have their own parliament.
Territories.
And then within Navarre, North Navarre speaks Basque. Centre, so Pamplona or Oronia, so more bilingual, and the south is a bit more like our Monmouthshire, if you like, if that makes sense. And then Euskadi, which sometimes people confuse, is the other 3 provinces, which is where Donostia, San Sebastian, Bilbao, Vitoria-Gasteiz, these big football teams, again, they're located, and the language policy and the national movement is maybe more advanced there. So I know in the Basque country, part of the big struggle is uniting Navarre with Euskadi, so getting at least the 4 provinces in the Spanish state together, and also independent. So there's 2 things going on there. Am I right to say that, Begotxu? And what's the situation today?
Yeah, that would be the main goal. I mean, how do you do it?
Just a little bit up. Begotxu.
Yeah, how do you do that? Because the thing is that we are divided, as you said, in 2 states and 3 administrative entities. Which means that it's difficult to work together, and that's the main thing, how to, respecting each part idiocracy, how to work together towards the goal. The situation is, as you said, in the Northern Basque country, there is no devolution, as the Bretons don't have it.
So that's in the Spanish state, no devolution there.
No devolution in the Northern Basque country. They have something called an institution now with some devolution in certain matters, but it's very, very small. They want to grow up on that, like the Corsicans or like the Bretons, but it's really, and again, the center is Toulouse. It's not even, I mean, these three provinces don't exist for France. They are inside a bigger department mixed with Occitans.
Yeah.
That's the idea. Okay, they did it on purpose back in the French Revolution. Then in the Spanish state, Navarre, what I call the mini Basque country, the three provinces, do have a large extent of devolution. In certain aspects, a larger devolution than Catalonia, because we raise our own taxes, which Catalans can't, and they want it. And that was the first issue. And in certain aspects, I'll say we have more power than Wales, the Welsh Assembly, but not in every aspect. It's not completely true. And we discovered this with COVID. Your assembly had powers to close the borders and things that we didn't have. So we discovered that although we thought we had a great degree of autonomy, it wasn't true. Now, the truth is that if we looked at the place where Basque is stronger and policies for Basque and where the independence political parties have a niche, that is these three provinces, the mini Basque country, in elections, there are two supposedly nationalist parties. One I'm going to call PNB, is the Basque Nationalist Party, Liberal, we'll say center-right party. And then we have a coalition of social democrats, leftist parties, nationalistic parties. This is another coalition, Bildu. Those two parties together in the last elections got 75% of the seats. And the same in the previous elections. It's always between 69 and 75%. But every single time they start a new electoral period, this 4 years in power, they say they want to revise the autonomous statute, and that they want go towards a higher powers, higher devolution, and all that. They don't do anything during the first 2 years in power, and then they empower one of the forces, not the opposition, not the coalition, and then the second year, like now, they start talking about this. So they always have a plan, they put it in the drawer, and then it's back again. So we've been like this. It's a kind of a repeated story. So we do have a parliament that, in theoretically speaking, is independent. But then, because of the Madrid situation and because they have to pact with the Socialist Party, and the excuse is we need to support the Socialist Party, otherwise the right wing will come and the extreme right wing will come. So in the end, the Socialist Party, which gets very few votes here, very few seats in the Basque Parliament. When I say very few, I have to check, but it's probably 10. They have more power, more ministries than the real political force. And it's because the main political party, the PNV, to maintain the power, because it's always like they need to rule in coalition with the Socialist Spanish Party. Of course, the Socialist Spanish Party is doing anything towards achieving a higher degree of autonomy or anything about the language. So, and this is, it's been like this. I mean, it's the...
Yes. So, it is quite complicated. Anyway, Welsh politics is very, very simple compared to the Basque situation. So as Begotxu said, there's the biggest party.
There's one lesson to learn from this, that having a political party that seems to be independent in their program and you vote for them, obtaining the majority and obtaining the government is not guarantee that exactly. I think in the end, it's people in the streets, the associations, the ones that can influence the agenda of political parties. Otherwise, political parties, in my opinion, are companies, are business, are corporations, and they want votes. So they always try to talk to the broader spectrum so they can guarantee their seats.
Yes.
And then you are always kind of decaffeinating your program in the main
So
points.
basically, so the Basque Country, the biggest party is the PNV, which is, if you like, what, maybe Christian Democrat, but pro-independence. Yeah. So
They say.
and yes, and you know,
It was
it's
born
been
at
in
the
power.
same time as Plaid Cymru. It was born
Yeah.
the
It
last
was founded
years
20
of
years
19th
before.
century.
Yeah, it was founded in 1905.
Yeah.
So, but that's the biggest party. And essentially what you're saying, Begotxu, is they're quite happy to get the powers they have. They would like more powers, but they're not doing much for it. Then you have a more, if you're more left-wing, more radical independence bloc, Bildu.
More
which-
radical in policies towards, I don't know, climate change or what you say, housing and all that.
Yeah.
About independence, they're exactly
Yeah,
the same. They talk more.
Right. Yeah. So you
more
say,
often,
so maybe the
but-
lesson for Wales is even, say, if Plaid Cymru does form the next government here in the Senedd, that's not a guarantee that independence will happen or will
No.
be an agenda. So we need to
No.
have movements like Plaid Cymru or the movements in the Basque Country to push that agenda
A
on.
strong YesCymru.
Yes,
Or similar.
and you know, the job of the political parties to win votes as well. So but we need to move the whole debate on. So Geraint, I think we'll sort of wrap up in a minute. We'll have another conversation in Welsh. Begotxu and siarad Cymraeg. Berffaith. I first met Begotxu. Was it 30 years? I've got into the habit of thinking everything's 20 years ago when I realised it's more like 30 or 40. So, but early 90s, whenever that was, here in Aberystwyth, and we always speak Welsh to each other. So it's very peculiar for me to speak not only English with Geraint, obviously, but with Begotxu as well. I think it's maybe the first time. So Geraint, just to sort of wrap up, so the conference is in the Ale Centre, which is literally next door to the Senedd, which is great. Moved to a bigger venue because the first venue was too small. So tickets are available. They're free, but you need to register. Just to remind people,
at the time of recording, we've only got a few left, so get in there quick.
Okay, so maybe they'll have gone by the
They
time
might have been gone by the time it goes out. Yeah.
And remember that the same evening, the Welsh women's football team is playing their first game in the European UEFA Championship against the Netherlands. So I mean, let's just keep that in mind. So people are welcome. The idea is that we can share good practice, be careful of bad practice, and hopefully give people a good welcome here in Wales as well. I mean, they can maybe understand more of the peculiarities of Welsh politics, Geraint.
Yeah. So this is the plan for the weekend. So we're all meeting for a meal, all the ICEC members on Friday evening. Then on the Saturday, then there's a simple structure to the day. So it's broken up into 4 sections. So in the morning we have 2 sections. The first one being a short introduction by all the nations. There'll be 11 nations all together giving an update. So we need 3. We'll have 3 points from each nation. The first one being the current state of play. The second one being the challenges faced by each nation. And the third one is the opportunities faced in their campaigns by each nation. And then we'll have a panel discussion before lunch, and that's going to be based around mass campaigning through digital campaigning and through traditional campaigning. So it's going to be a panel discussion in the morning. Then we'll have lunch, and then after lunch we'll have second panel discussion, and that is going to be around forming proper relationships to share good practice and campaigning techniques. So we formalise then our relationships together as a group of nations, and then we build then a proper network to properly share good practice and support each other. Then we'll wrap up the kind of public side to it, and then the ICEC member nations then will hopefully formally sign a declaration tying ourselves up into to what we discussed on the day and the whole ethos of the conference and for ICEC. And then in the evening, we are going to, unfortunately for the conference and for everybody involved in organising, we're up against Oasis in Cardiff on Saturday night. Okay. So it's going to be very interesting. But we are going to go out and we are going to taste a bit of the life of Cardiff, and maybe if we can go into Clwb Bach and have a bit of Welsh music, that would be good fun.
Yeah.
And then on the Sunday, we're all going to head up in a minibus and or a bus, and we're going to head up to Pontypridd, where all the ICEC members are going to have a tour, a walking tour, and a minibus tour of the valleys and Pontypridd, and we're going to be discussing a lot of things about our Welsh history and culture and the national anthem and everything
fab.
involved in Pontypridd. So it's going to be a really good weekend for everybody.
Well, remember, there's a very good little book about the history of the Welsh national anthem, written by an author you may know, by myself. So, so the copies are for sale in all good bookshops for £3.99, if I remember. So the history of the Welsh national anthem are on sale by myself, by Lolva. I think this is important because if you look at Welsh European history, nations have become independent when there's been a big seismic European change. So you have a big wave after the First World War, with a lot of nations, well, in Ireland, but also Czechoslovakia, the Baltic states becoming independent. And there's a big then wave when the communist bloc collapsed. So my reading of history is, if Wales becomes independent or the Basque country becomes independent, then a lot of other countries will become independent around the same time as well. So I think that's how it will happen. We'll be part of a bigger microclimate, not just one-offs. So I think it's very important that we have these traditions, and people are aware of them, so they are taking notice of what's happening in the Basque country, what's happening in Catalonia, and learning from that. Geraint Thomas, Begotxu Olaizola, thanks for making time to talking to me, Sean Jobbins, here on the Radio YesCymru podcast, on your favourite podcast apps, and also the YesCymru YouTube channel. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the Saturday, and then I hope ICEC grows from strength to strength as we learn from each another and become sovereign independent nations in a united continent of Europe. Diolch yn fawr, pob hwyl.
Diolch yn fawr.